Watch this. They began to work and appointed the Levites from 20 years old and above to oversee the work of the house of the Lord. 20 years old and over, Clark. Catch that. 20 years old and over. You had a heart transplant, and the heart that was given to you was the age 20 or 21 years old. And now you are what? Building the house of the Lord again. Watch this. Then Joshua with his sons and brothers, Kadmiel with his sons and the sons of Judah arose as one. Say as one. Say unity. To oversee those working on the house of God, the sons of Henadad with their sons and their brethren the Levites. When the builders laid the foundation of the temple of the Lord, the priests stood in their apparel with trumpets, and the Levites, the sons of Asaph, with cymbals, to praise the Lord according to the ordinance of David, king of Israel. And they sang responsively, praising and giving thanks to the Lord. For he is good, for his mercy endures forever and ever towards Israel. Then all the people shouted with a great shout when they praised the Lord. Why? Because the foundation of the house of the Lord was laid. They have been building feverishly here since the last time I left. They have been building and building and building and relaying the foundation, and the foundation has been laid, and now there's a solid foundation for a new apostolic reformation with the prophetic edge to come forth out of this territory like no other. The sons of the prophets all over Australia are dying, because there's sons of prophets who no longer want to be prophets and no longer allow the voice of God to come forth from their pulpits, and some of them have the largest churches in Australia. But they've shunned the prophetic because they have seen the mistakes of the prophetic, and they have not dealt with the mistakes, so they've chosen just to let the sons that they gave birth to die before their time, because without the breath of prophetic inspiration, the sons of the prophets suffocate. And so there has to be a prophetic center where they can go and be raised up and trained up to do that in which God has called them to do. And I believe Brisbane is that epicenter. Says that the foundation was laid. And all the people shouted. Why? Because the foundation was laid. There's been a foundation laid through the teaching on last week. And you all have stepped upon that foundation tonight, and you have shouted with jubilation at something new that God is doing. But in the midst of that shout, there's also great mourning. Look at the next verse. Verse 12. But many of the priests and the Levites and the heads of the fathers' houses, old men who had seen the first temple, wept with a loud voice when the foundation of this temple was laid before their eyes. Yet many shouted aloud for joy, so that the people could not discern the noise of the shout of joy from the noise of the weeping of the people. Why? You had one generation that was shouting for joy. God is here. And then you had the other generation weeping uncontrollably because they couldn't believe, could it be that the glory that we once knew might really come back in my days? You have one generation that's crying out. The youth, God, let us see your power. Let us see your miracles. We'll go to Thailand. We'll go to Singapore. We'll go anywhere you send us to raise the dead. We don't care. We just want to go. We just want to see it. And then you've got men of God of old that were a part of the former glory, and they remember the glorious days of the signs and wonders and the power gifts, and they remember the mistakes they made. But deep inside, they're weeping like the young people saying, God, just one more time before I cross in the glory, let me see your power in the sanctuary one more time. That's what's happening here. You've got the youth shouting for joy, and you've got the elder generation that saw what once was weeping. God, we just might have it. This just might be it. So you had one noise that went out into the territory. Now watch this. People ask me, why do you have people shout so much in your meetings? And you have others that say to me, I've literally had people say to me, you know, all that shouting is not necessary. We didn't do that in my day. And I say, oh, I'm sorry, it's not your day anymore. Respectfully so. But look at this. It says in verse 13, so that the people could not discern the noise of the shout of joy from the noise of the weeping of the people, for the people shouted with a loud shout, and the shout was heard afar off. No, and the sound was heard afar off. Watch this. The shout of joy and the noise of weeping create a sound. God mixes the shout of joy and the noise of the older generation's weeping, and he takes those two, and out of it comes a sound that's heard afar off. Where, reckons? It goes out into the realm of the heavens, crashes through the first heavens, penetrates through the second heavens, and enters the third heaven where the throne of God is, and every territorial spirit of darkness in between hears that sound and begins to tremble, because they realize the only time that sound comes is when the foundation has been relaid and something glorious is about to happen, because we know that sound, and that sound is what's happening in this place tonight. Samuel blew it last week. He represented Benjamin, the older generation. Tonight I blow it as the next generation, Judah. And when I blow it, something is going to be released in the atmosphere that is going to begin a new season in this region and in this territory. And you're going to leave this place with a greater degree of God's impartation upon your life. And the weight of the mantle that I prayed upon those young girls, the very weight of that glory is going to come upon every one of you after I blow this. And you shout, yes, you shout, the weight's going to fall on you. Blow it. And after I blow it, I want you to shout so loud that America has an earthquake. And as you do, I guarantee you, the weight of the mantle that's upon me for your nation is going to fall upon you.